All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I pray that this day has treated you well, that the storm has not affected you in any negative way, and that the smooth jazz was allowed you to open your mind and relax a little. So thank you all for joining us for part three. Oh, we made it to part three. Amen. Part three of the legislation review. And we have quite a few bills to cover today. We'll do our best to um, meet or reach all of them and have a fruitful discussion. So just remember, we'll have polls. You can ask your questions in the chat. We will have to send you an unmute request if you so desire to speak. Use your raise hand feature. Again, there are break rooms that are available. If you need help with the break room, you will launch your toolbox on the bottom of your device or screen, select breakout room, and you can go to 1, 2, or 3. So be sure to coordinate your breakout room discussion if you so choose with another member that has joined us today. We again thank you all and really appreciate your support and your engagement. In these sessions. And last for me, just want to dedicate this to my grandma because she was a stalwart lay member and she would be so, so proud that I am here and still serving and able to do these things. So without further ado, we will send it over to Mark and it's up to you, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Sister Williams. Good afternoon, family. We're excited to be here today. I am Brother Mark Johnson, the legislation chair of the Connectional Lay Organization. And you've met the lovely Sister Jameisha Williams, young adult representative of the Connectional Lay Organization. On behalf of the Connectional Lay Organization, President A. McKeety, we welcome you here today. Our aim today is to help the AME Church, and particularly the delegates and alternates to the 2024 General Conference, understand and appreciate the scores and scores of legislation before us. Secretary Cooper has shared with us 800 pages in a legislation packet to review. Within 30 days, we had to bring ourselves abreast of these bills. 80% of them we were seeing for the very first time. It is our responsibility as elected delegates to do our best to become knowledgeable and informed for ourselves. We hope this series of presentations will be helpful to you and the General Conference. We are all praying that we will be more efficient this General Conference in regards to legislation. This is the CLO's attempt to help us do just that. May God bless us in this endeavor. Let me announce this disclosure right away. The Connectional Lay Organization is proud to serve as your host today. However, we are being very careful in our presentation and want you to understand the selection and presentation of these bills is not a reflection of an endorsement from the CLO. Rather, it is an attempt to provide a platform to gain additional details of the proposed legislation, and when possible, to hear directly from the authors the intent of the proposed bill. Today is an example of our attempt to be neutral. Our focus today is the local church administration with a few connectional affairs that we have left over from last week. We will provide you with an opportunity to send your comments and questions, suggestions to the author. We will share them and provide an opportunity to continue discussions afterwards. And finally, let's take note that we are a collection of delegates and alternates from across the connection, an ideal vetting session. We are sure the General Conference will take note of this today. Mr. Williams.
Oh, I need to unmute myself. Okay, so I have a few rules and loving rules, of course. All right, so by utilizing the raise hand feature, you may, if you wish to speak, you will be acknowledged and prompted to unmute yourself. Once the speaker has concluded what they will say, they will again be muted. Questions should be sent via the chat feature. And if you need help with that, again, go down to the bottom of your device's screen and look at your toolbox, your Zoom toolbox, and select chat feature, and you can send your message. Only questions addressing the proposals being presented will be given priority. So throughout these sessions, we've had a lot of various comments and thought-provoking comments and questions and things of that nature, but they may not have had anything to do with the bill currently being presented. So please note that only questions addressing those proposals will be given priority. Again, as Brother Mark mentioned, this serves as a neutral space for delegates to gather additional information about the bills directly from their authors. Remember that this is not NLT, not the forum to vent your frustration if it is not related to the proposals being presented. The moderators, Mark and I, and those members addressing those bills, we are not responsible. We apologize for your plight, but we are not responsible. And then proposed legislation being reviewed during these sessions were selected based on the themes of the bills that we're presenting today. And so we are going to move forward with the abandoned property bill with Mr. Marvin Colbert. All right, Marvin, we're coming to you to send you an unmute request. So look out for it. Oh, let's see if he's here. I think I was just on the phone with him. I see it, Marvin. We're going to send this to you because maybe that's you. Mr. Marvin, Reverend Marvin Colbert.
And Sister Williams, I'll announce, we did skip the first and second bill. We're probably going to try to come back to it. I noticed that the worksheet is missing in the packet, and we're going to try to load that up later. So that's why we skipped Bill 1 and 2.
All right. Mr. Colbert, are you
Yes,
with us?
I'm here.
All right. So please begin, sir.
All right, with bill number 1, proposed legislation. This is the abandoned property, page 884. The current text, if I need to skip through that, this basically is to add language that is missing from the current text that reads, abandoned property when a congregation is dissolved, disband or otherwise ceases to function as a church in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the rights of all real property, personal property, and fixtures are automatically transferred to the Board of Trustees of the annual conference in which the property is located. The amended text starts at line 4 after fixtures. The added language is payment of conference assessment and dues, including connection and Episcopal assessments. Then it picks up to the original text or automatically transferred to the Board of Trustees of the annual conference in which the property is located. This first legislation on page 84 is connected to what is on page 72. So both of these proposals go together because we have to, there's no direction currently that says what to do with property after a church closes, what to do with the assessment. It basically reads that, the right to property, the sale of the property, personal property, all of that belongs to the AME Church, but there is no language anywhere that I could see anywhere else that gives direction to what happens to those conference assessments, dues, connectional payments, and Episcopal assessments. So this is to add that language that gives clarity and direction for every conference and every local district to know what happens.
Thank you, Reverend Colbert. Now,
Okay.
Brother Mark will have some questions for you.
Okay.
Mark, you're muted.
Thank you, thank you. Has this bill been shared or vetted among others, such as your conference or your Episcopal district? Or with whom, sir?
Yes, it has been. It's gone through our local district conference meeting and discussion with the three presiding elders in the Macon conference. That would be presiding elder Harvey Williamson, presiding elder Kimberly McMichael, and presiding elder Bertram Smith, and they all are in agreement and like the language of this bill. It gives clarity to them and how they can lead their districts and what needs to happen to the assessments.
Okay. Can you share with us any issues? I'm sorry. Can you share with us any issues others have shared with you they may have with the bill?
No issues, no issues. The one concern was how the equitability part of it. Will everybody buy into it? But this bill, it benefits every single conference throughout our entire connection. There may be a time when one conference may have a closing of a church, but as the language goes on into the second bill, then that money is redistributed throughout the connection. So there may be a time when one conference or local district may not have a closure, but there could be another district or conference that has a church closure, but we would all share in the added responsibility of those assessments. The assessments really doesn't go away, it's just redistributed.
Yes, sir. All right. Sister Williams, you will help us with the chat?
Yes, we have 2 questions so far.
Yes.
From Sister Libertha. It states, if a church closes, will there still be any assessments due?
That's part of this original language, is to tell us to include this language of what happens to the assessments. The second bill addresses what actually happens to the money portion of it. So the two have to go together. You have to have the language that's included in the first bill on page 884, and then the second bill addresses what happens to the money.
Okay, thank you for your response. The next question states, why are the assessments going to the trustees? What will the trustees then do with the payment of the assessments? Are these not being redistributed?
They're not being redistributed as it is stated in the discipline. As it is already supposed to be redirected to the board of trustees for that particular annual conference that takes care of the real property, the personal property, and fixtures of the local church that's closing or being disbanded. So it still stands to reason that anything that has to do with the assessments still would be in the hands of the board of trustees for that annual conference. But Bill 2 still addresses that issue.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Why weren't both bills combined?
Because they're on separate pages. They're separate issues. And so that's why it was written in 2 different ways. If it can be combined, it'd be fine. But because it was located in 2 different areas of the discipline, so we add the language. One, to add the language of what to include payments being the connection and the Episcopal assessment being included in what goes to the annual conference. Bill 2 redirects where that money goes.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your response.
Mm-hmm.
We will now, we have one more question.
Yeah.
What happens if there are unpaid taxes or liens?
Well, that still is another issue. That's still just like any assessment that remains with that local district. It could be included in that. When the church assumed the right for all real property, personal property, and fixtures, it also should include include those tax liens, if there are tax liens. That goes into the hands of the Board of Trustees, that they would deal with any kind of tax liens or purposes like that, that automatically goes to the bishop's office.
Okay. Now, because of time, there are several other questions in the chat. Reverend Colbert, please take note and respond to those questioners directly, please, if you're able. We are now going to launch a poll just to see what type of support you have for your bill.
Okay.
Okay, everyone. Do you support this proposed bill? Yes, no, or are you still considering? And if you are unable to see the poll, please just answer yes, no, or considering in the chat, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you. And we'll have 45 seconds for this poll. As we prepare, Sister Angela Pettis is next with page 34, accountability and optional commissions, followed by the follow-up bill. She has bill 30, which is accountability and reporting, and then also 34, accountability of optional commissions. So Ms. Pettis, if you'll just prepare to review both of those, and we'll vote on both. And we'll next go to Sister Libertha. All right, so the results are in. Sharing those results, we have 54% who responded yes, that they support this bill. 6% responded no, that they do not support this bill. And 40% are still considering. So we thank you all for voting. Pulling up our next bill. Accountability and reporting. Sister Pettis.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Brother Mark and Sister Denisha. Thank you so much for this session again. They've been very, very helpful. So I am here representing the Chicago Conference Legislative Task Force in these two bills. The first one, accountability and reporting. This one has to do with ensuring accuracy in our reports that are made to the quarterly conference, the annual conference, and other bodies within the local church. And we know that when we affix our signature to a report, we are certain that the information is correct. So currently there's no text in the discipline that addresses this. And to help with accountability with all areas in the church is a result of where this bill is coming from. And basically it's saying that an affidavit needs to be attached to each report, including a financial report that is made by any member of the church. And this attests to the accuracy of the report. It needs to be signed by the pastor as well as the chairperson of the organization. Copies should be given to the official files of the church as well as the presiding elder when necessary.
All right, thank you. Brother Mark, are you ready with your questions?
Yes. Sister Pettis, has this bill been shared? Oh, well, I think you did answer that question already, but has this bill been shared or vetted among others? Just share with us again, please.
Yes, it was shared out to the Chicago Conference Legislative Task Force, and then it was shared with the presiding elders council of the 4th Episcopal District.
Okay. Have anyone shared any issues with this bill, and can you share that with us, please?
None to my knowledge.
All right. Williams, we'll move on to the chat.
All right, so in the chat, there are not any questions currently. We can also move on to your second bill, or would you like a vote on this one, Ms. Pettis?
We vote on this one, sure.
Okay. All right, everyone, we are, we gotta stop that one. Launching the poll again. Again, do you support this proposed bill? Yes, no, or still considering.
Mhm.
And again, if you're unable to see the poll, please add your response to the chat feature. 45 seconds to vote. And again, do note that after Ms. Pettis's this current bill, we will move on to Sister Libertha. All right, so the votes show that those results are being shared. 58% are in support, 4% say no, and 39% are still considering. And then we also have a few others. Okay, she's not on. A few others who have voted in the chat feature. All right, back to you, Ms. Pettis.
Okay. Okay, thank you. This is accountability of optional commissions. I am representing the Chicago Conference Legislative Task Force. And basically what this bill states is that any commission in the church is accountable to the official board as well as the quarterly conference. Current text is listed there, and we're adding a statement in the amended text that basically is that all commissions are accountable to the official board and the quarterly conference. And that's this bill.
All right, thank you, Ms. Pettis. Mark, are you ready with your question? Mark, why can't you unmute yourself? We have to work on that.
My apologies, my apologies. Have anyone shared any issues with this bill, Sister Pettis?
Has anyone shared any issue? None that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. All right. Are we gonna do a poll?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Launching poll, everyone. Remember, you have 45 seconds to say whether you support, deny, or are still considering this bill. We do have a question, Sister Pettis. And Felicia is also in the packet, but she asked if you could provide the rationale for that bill you just discussed.
Sure. The use of optional commissions is at times misrepresented as operating outside the authority of the official board and the quarterly conference. And we just want to clarify that it is not. All commissions within the church are accountable to the official board as well as to the quarterly conference.
Okay. And the next question, how is this different from current practice?
Well, in the discipline, this accountability of optional commissions does not state that it's not under session for official board. And so if we just add this statement, then it would imply also that all commissions are accountable to the official board and the quarterly conference.
Thank you. So we do have the results from the poll. 56% are in support, 6% deny that they support this bill, and 38% are still considering. All right, so we thank everyone for your votes, and we will launch the next step here with Sister Libertha. Libertha, we're ready for you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. If you can just go to the next part, which is yes, thank you so much. Now, the Allen Christian Evangelical League of AME Church is an organization that, although currently not provided for in the Book of Discipline, it operates within districts 15 to 20. And as you would note from, in terms of the intent, it's an organization that leads young men, young women, youths to accept Christ. So it really does evangelism. One can call it street evangelism. It is a vibrant, exciting, transformative organization. And from what I know, it's the only organization where clergy and laity serve together in unison to share the word of Christ as a formal organization. And the aim with this legislation is to make sure that the ACE League, in short, what it is called, is established at all levels, and it is enabled through a provision in the discipline. The other name for this ACE League is, it is also called Amatodana in some of the districts. And as I said, it really is, the membership is made up of clergy and laypersons. And the aim of the ACE League is, it's an evangelism initiative, and it serves under the auspices of the Department of Church Growth and Development. And that is as part of the rationale. And the under 21, you can see that the conscious loyalty and support of the members to the total program of the church is also encouraged through the ACE League. And it is really, the purpose of this legislation is to enable the ACE League that is currently operating informally in these 4 districts to be established connectionally. You will see from the rationale that it is to evangelize the power of the Holy Ghost. If you go on, for instance, on YouTube or Facebook and you search for ACE League, you will see the type of work that this league does within our districts in 15, 18, and 19. And from the GDC side, this was adopted at the Global Development Council that took place in Johannesburg, and hence this legislation is being brought to the General Conference. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are.
Sister Liberta, can you share with us any issues others have shared with this bill?
I have not heard of any, Mark.
Okay. And has this bill been vetted, and where?
This bill has been vetted at the GDC that took place in Johannesburg, and that meeting was attended by all the GDC bishops and the members of the GDC. Can I respond to some of the questions I see on the chat, Mark?
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I'll read them for you and you're welcome to respond. So, ACE League, how is this different than what existed in our church several years ago?
Amita, I'm not so sure what existed several years ago, but from what I know and how I experienced the ACE League, this is really us as members, as laity, as pastors, jointly going out in the streets, going out and ministering in unison in the form of an organization. But I'm not really sure. Maybe you can explain in the chat what else existed years ago. I'm not so sure. And in terms of the teaching arm of the church, the laity being one of them, I have really not experienced this. ACE League in the GDC districts exists jointly with the other teaching arms, and it coexists quite well. I mean, the lay organization does the formal teaching in a church setup, in a a meeting type setup, but this organization is really one that goes out in the streets. Uniformity, both pastors and laity, and through doing this, I can give you the assurance that there are so many other people joining the AME Church through the ACE League because it evangelizes in the streets.
All right, so there are several other questions in the chat, but for now we will launch the poll before moving forward or backward because Reverend Marvin mentioned that he was not finished, so we will go back to him. So let's launch poll. Everyone, you have 45 seconds. And Sister Roberto, you're more than welcome to answer remaining questions in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, winding down, please vote. Sister Bird is giving us a history lesson in the chat. All right, ending poll and now sharing those results. So 53% are in support, 9% are not supportive, and 39% are still considering the necessity of this bill. Oh, Miss Bird, I was not alive and probably not a thought in 1955. Okay, we're moving forward. Oh, excuse me, backward. Let's go to page. All right, we'll start at page 25. Reverend, you are welcome to resume.
Thank you so much for allowing me to go back to complete these bills. Page 25 is the second portion of the legislation that addresses issues on page 72, I'm sorry, of the 2021 Book of Discipline. The intent of this second portion of the bill, and it is in conjunction with the first one, the intent is upon annual conference approval of a local church closure, the connection and Episcopal assessment shall be referred to the presiding bishop for redistribution of assessments throughout the Episcopal district. What has happened is it's been customary that when a church closed, those assessments, connection, and Episcopal payments remain in that local district, and it causes a strain on the churches that are remaining. For example, when I came into this district, there were 27 churches on the district. Now there are 22 churches, and the 5 churches that have closed, that amount of money has been redistributed within the 22 churches, which causes a tremendous strain. We have now one church that is on the verge of possibly closing with a substantial financial burden if it falls on 22 churches. So the idea picks up in the amended text at line 9. It says, in addition, payments of conference assessment and dues, connection and Episcopal assessments will dissolve for the local district. Upon annual conference approval of the local church closure, the connection and Episcopal assessment shall be referred to the presiding bishop for redistribution of assessment throughout the Episcopal district. For example, as I mentioned, church that is on the verge of closing, their annual total budget, and these are real figures, is $11,718. If that amount is redistributed within the 22 churches, in this area, the connection for those churches would be $265, and the SED for those churches would be $267, and a total annual payment in addition to everything else that they would have would be $532. However, if the amount of money is redistributed throughout the entire 500 churches in the Episcopal district, then that changes substantially. The connection would be $11.68. The SED would be $11.76. And the total annual budget, in addition to everything else that we have, would be $23. And so when we divide that out by the quarter, we're only looking at $2.92 if the amount for the connection is distributed within the entire Episcopal district, or $5.88 if the SCD or the Episcopal budget is redistributed among 500 churches. It makes such a difference in how much of an obligation falls on the remaining churches in the local districts if we can get this kind of bill passed that says that these church closures, the money would be redistributed within the entire Episcopal district. The Episcopal district does not lose any money. It's just redistributed in a smaller amount where all of the churches take a portion of it.
Reverend Colbert.
Yes.
Can you share with us any issues others may have shared with you with this bill?
There are no issues with this issue. With this bill, it goes along. It's attached to Bill 1, and I have discussed it with all of the presiding elders again in the Macon conference, and they are in agreement. It has also gone through our post-planning meeting conference with the state legislative task force. So no, I have not received any negative feedback. It all makes sense when you compare.
Yes, Reverend. We're going to move on a little bit, but there were some comments or a couple questions in the chat.
Yes.
Yes. From Sister Joanne Thompson. Should not the funds be directed within the conference to pay for the loss assessments?
That's exactly what's happening. It causes a burden on the conference. We have, as I said, when churches close, we started out with 27 churches in this district. Even within the conference, it's still a burden within the conference. If we divided it up between 66 churches, it still is a burden within the conference. But when we talk about the entire episcopacy, then we really are talking really small amounts of money that the church will not hurt smaller churches. There won't be this Ronald piece.
All right. Next question. How will that impact the salary of the presiding elders?
Does not impact the salary of the presiding elders. Those churches that are closed, as I said, but when those churches close, then those amounts are still redistributed. The salary of the presiding elder could be another issue where his salary is redistributed among the district, this is only to include the connectional budget and the Episcopal budget, but not the presiding elder's salary. So the presiding elder's salary, separate issue, redistributed within the local district.
All right.
All right. There are more questions in the chat, sir. So please do answer those for our members who have joined. Okay. And we will now go to launch a poll. Remember, everyone, that I didn't share the results from the last one. I'm going to stop sharing those. And now we are going to relaunch. All right. Do you support this proposed bill? yes, no, or under consideration. And if you have further comments or are unable to see the poll, please do respond in the chat. Okay. 45 seconds, everyone. Mark, please look at your phone. um, Several of our members have responded in the chat that yes, they do support. All right. Sister Bruce, we are copying straight from the packet, so it's not my fault. I promise you, it's not my fault. And I think we went to the first one, 23. Then we had already done 25. So look at page 23. All right, poll ended. So 57% are in support, 10% do not support, and 33% are still considering this bill. All right, where are we going?
Okay, this is she ready.
Oh, Sister Angela. I think we already did hers.
And your
us,
conference
everyone. We thank
audit, maybe,
you.
Annual conference audit,
please.
okay. Do you have the page number? I think it is 72.
Oh, whoa. What just happened? Okay.
Okay, this is the annual conference audit, again submitted by the Chicago Conference Legislative Task Force. Is who I am presenting. Again, this addresses accountability within our church. Annual conference is the only legal entity, and we're not auditing our annual conferences, but we do audit other areas in the church, such as the Episcopal District. And so this bill is suggesting that annual conferences should be audited. There's no current text, it's all new text, and just basically state that the annual conference must have an external audit by an accredited auditor. And this is financed by each entity in that annual conference. Thank you.
Mr. Pettis, share with us again, who has this bill been shared with, or vetted with?
Yes, Chicago Conference Legislative Task Force. We also other task force within the 4th Episcopal District, and it was with the presiding elders of the 4th Episcopal District.
Can you speak to any issues that anyone has with this bill?
None that I'm aware of.
Mr. Williams, we have anything in the chat?
Sister Pettis, several members are in agreement in support of your bill. Sister Reeves asks, who would pay for the audit?
Would be an expense of the annual conference.
Okay. Next question. What is the frequency in which such audit is being requested?
Each time an annual conference is held, so yearly, once a year.
Okay. And Sister Thompson asks, what is the time frame?
Again, after each annual conference, so once a year.
Okay. Well, okay. There are several comments in the chat. We will now launch the poll. All right, everyone. Do you support this proposed bill? Yes, no, or still considering? And if you are unable to see the poll, please respond in the chat. As we prepare, Brother Ruben, get ready. As everyone, we will be going to page 119 for CLO. CLO 1. And in your packet, again, page 119. Ending the poll in about 10 seconds, everyone. So get your vote in. All right, ending. We're sharing those results. 50% are in support, 20% are not supportive of this bill, and 30% are still considering. There are a few comments in the chat on their support or not, and we thank you all for voting. Next bill, page 119, CLO1. What's new page for the AME Book of Doctrine and Discipline? Brother Brazil.
Thank you, Sister Williams. This bill, very simply put, is just, most people don't have the bandwidth to read the entire discipline every time we get a new one. And this page will just simply give you the changes, the new things to go and look at and look out for when a new discipline is printed. All it is a single page that tells you the new bills that were approved and have been included in the discipline that is different from the previous disciplines in the past. And so it's a very simple thing. It's just something that we want to put in there to make the discipline easier and more user-friendly. Thank you. Any questions?
Has this bill been vetted? You can remind us whether it's been vetted, Brother Rubin?
Yes, this bill was vetted by all Episcopal districts, and then it was passed by the Connectional lay biennial, and has also been vetted by the December Convo in Columbus, Ohio. So it has been vetted and passed and approved at every level.
And can you speak to any issues anyone have shared with this bill?
Actually, I haven't heard of any problems with this particular bill. Everyone seems to be on board with it because it helps make the book, which is kind of complicated in some instances, much more user-friendly and easier for people to pick out the differences as opposed to the old stuff that's been in there for years.
All right. So we're going to move on to the chat with the poll for this one. I don't think we saw any questions, I don't believe.
No poll, no questions in the chat, but everyone, we are relaunching the poll. Please answer yes, no, or still considering whether you are in support of this bill or not. While we do that, Sister Thompson, you had a question about page 67, I believe. We will return to that one. I don't believe Ms. Brooks is on right now, so we'll return to. All right, everyone. Less than 10 seconds left to vote.
And while we're waiting on that out, the bills that we may not do because the author's not here, we will skip them. But you have a list here to take note and read for yourselves, those bills. But we will try to get through the bills today in which the authors are here. So that's our goal today. While the authors are here, we want to try to accomplish as many bills as possible. But since you have a list here, you can note those bills, and they have email addresses. You can speak to them or email them any concerns.
All right, the results of the poll are as followed. 87% are in support, 3% are not in support, and 11% are still considering. We thank you all for voting. We will now go to page 121, which is Commission on Internal Audit. Sister Floyd, you may take over the floor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present this particular bill. This bill is it's asking to add another commission to the local church. And this is once we talked previously about all the commissions are optional. Most churches, many churches do not use commissions, but most do. This would be an optional commission to have an internal audit at the function at the local church level. Most churches cannot afford to pay for an external audit, but an internal audit function is far more effective in most cases than an external audit. External auditors are usually brought in, 4 or 5 years in between, where internal auditing is taking care of the responsibilities of what's going on in the entity on an ongoing basis. And so this is actually giving a worksheet so that each church could implement a small group of 3 to 5 normally official board members. They should be individuals who are involved in the church, respected in the church, to come together and actually review the financial information that's being put together. I heard a previous bill regarding the quarterly conference reports, making sure that those things are correct. Well, this is what the internal audit group would do. They would take the worksheet, they would review the bank statements, they review the mortgage statement, making sure that the information is reported to the official board and to the quarterly conference and to the annual conference is actually correct. And that the official board is fully aware and can trust the financial statements that are being produced on an ongoing basis. For those of you using spreadsheets and things like that, this is really critical because you do want to make sure that that information is correct. And so that is the purpose of this. Basically, many stewards and trustees, they feel very powerless to really understand what the financial statements are, what they're reviewing and what's there. And so that's what this is. It's an optional commission to be added to the local church. Basically, that is to review and make sure that the financial statements are correct and all of the above has been done the way that it should be done. And I won't belabor the time by going any further with that, but as I said, it has a worksheet attached to it that actually goes through the sections so that individuals can actually follow the worksheet and actually do the work of actually checking on the financial statements for the church. And I'll stop there.
And I noticed in chat they're asking, where is this worksheet? And I apologize, we do not have it posted. It did not come along with the bill like we were expecting it to. But if you'll put in the chat to send you the worksheet, we'll send you that after the meeting. My apologies there. But it did not come along with the packet that Secretary Cooper sent out. But we'll email it to you. Sister Gordon, Floyd, has this bill been shared or vetted among others? And with whom?
It has been. It was vetted by the CLO Legislation Committee, significantly vetted by that, and then taken to the biennial and approved at the biennial. It also was presented to the 2nd Episcopal District and went through its legislation process and was approved there as well.
Has anyone expressed any issues with this bill with you?
This particular one, none that I recall, sir, none that I recall.
Mr. Williams will help us with the chat.
Okay, everyone, just pause on requesting the worksheet. I'm trying to get to the questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Thompson asks, would that not be the responsibility of the Commission on Stewardship and Finance?
It would be the responsibility of it, but we find sometimes that that commission is really not functioning, or there's only one person in charge of the finances of the church. And so this would just be an opportunity for other individuals on the official board to just make sure that everything that's being reported out, especially at the quarterly conference and annual conference level, is supported by the necessary documentation to make sure that the report is accurate. So it's just a check and a way to check behind the information that's coming out.
Next question from Sister Cosby. Would this replace the audit?
The answer is it could. If you have an internal audit function that operates the way that it should in a very independent manner, it has the ability to be far more effective than an external audit. I'm an auditor, and so basically sometimes when an auditor comes in, matter of fact, all the time we come in, we are not familiar with the inner workings of the entity that we're auditing. We're coming in basically looking at financial statements and trying to verify that what you've given us is correct, but we unfortunately end up being reliant on the information that you give us in order to do that. Whereas those individuals on the inside know far more about what should be, what should not be, what it should look like, what it should not look like, and they can be, if they function well, far more effective than an external audit.
All right, thank you. Brother Taylor asks, why 30 to 45 days to audit?
you need time to close the books. And so that's really what that time frame is order to close out that final, hopefully the end of your fiscal year or your calendar year, to close the books, get them done, and then that's when the internal audit can start their work.
Is a CPA required?
Definitely not. And that is the beauty of internal audit, is that with the worksheet and with some training, and I have a training session for you, with some training, you can do it and do it very well, because that's the purpose of the worksheet, is to make it easier for individuals to pay close attention to this information and know how to look at what should be looked at.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We're ready now to launch the poll. And do know that we will send the worksheet out to everyone who has registered for this session. So we thank you all for your interest. We will get that out to you. The poll is launched. You all have 45 seconds to vote as we prepare for CLO 6, reduction of the travel budget of retired bishops and general officers by 50%.
And Sister Jameisha, would you like to go over my other bill before you move to the next one?
We're trying to stay in order, so
Okay, I got you.
we'll come back to you.
No problem.
Oh, okay. Ending the poll and sharing those results. 66 are in support of this bill, 10% say no, they are not in support, and 23% are currently considering this bill. Okay. Next bill is CLO 6, which is on page 136. Sorry, we're trying to coordinate appropriately back here. 136.
I'm your co-host. However, I will speak to that bill. The Connectional Lay Organization's chair of the legislation committee, and this bill was a bill that we brought to the Connectional Lay Organization event. It simply asked or suggests that the church, or particularly the treasurer and the Statistical Finance Commission, take a look at the travel budget of retired bishops and general officers. Those stats were available to everybody in the booklet. And since things have changed since we left COVID, we thought that we should pay attention to it. This year we have a lot of retirees. I can remember, I think it was 6 of them, plus 3 more. So, and we're not traveling as much. And therefore, why not consider reducing the package or the allotment for them, and use those resources for something else, since we're not meeting as much. So it's a concern we brought to the Statistical Finance and the Treasurer. He has said that he is taking a look at it. He said all things are on, will be considered. So that's what this bill addresses. This bill too has a worksheet. At the time that it was made, we had a couple more persons that were being that were retiring, but they have yet to decease. But you would get the gist of this bill if you were to see the worksheet. So like Mr. Williams said, we will send you that worksheet to accompany this bill. But simply it's just for us to take a look at it, that have the treasurer to consider, maybe we don't need to allow allot so much money for this, since we don't travel as much, and since money's a bit tight these days. I'll end there. Any questions?
No questions. We will launch the poll to see if you all are in support of the bill. Do you support CLO 6? Yes, no, or are you still considering?
Gotcha.
All right, we're ending the poll. 81% are in support of CL06, 7% say no, and 13% are still considering. Thank you all for voting. Let's go to CLO 39. CLO 8, which is on packet page 139. Which is revisions to the Commission on Financial Management Program. And I believe Ms. Cynthia will speak to this one. Sending you a notice. Take over, Ms. Cynthia.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. This particular one, it is meant to be a revision on the Commission on Financial Management Program. If you look in your discipline on page 254, you will find this commission is already in the discipline. It has just never been implemented. It's been in the discipline for actually 44 years per se. And so, but it really should be implemented to move forward. So this bill was actually done simply to provide revisions to the existing bill so that to move it up to the needs of the current church 44 years later to address those things that are needed right now. And so what this bill actually tries to do is it wants to put into a group of 9 persons who have specific responsibilities. They have financial management experience. They are independent professionals that are in financial management. They're in human resources. They may be legal persons, but basically financial management individuals who have the experience to come into the church and to assist with putting together the financial oversight, the integrity and accountability of financial reporting that is desperately needed in the church right now. And so this commission, of course, will be the same 9 persons that was mentioned in the bill that starts on page 254 in the discipline, and the 3 programs would still be in place. Financial oversight, which is a desperate need currently right now. And then as you move further into financial oversight, you begin to start making suggestions about areas of improvement for the agencies and commissions and all of that under that. The current bill talks about Episcopal, I guess it talks about churches, oversight for churches and things like that. We took those things out because we felt that they were not easily implementable at this point, although they should be considered, definitely not churches, but the annual conferences into this idea of oversight and proper accounting. What's important about this bill to consider is that what it endeavors to do is puts a group of 9 persons, financial professionals and other professionals in place to implement the things that the church is talking about doing. I've heard wonderful bills about a standardized chart of accounts, new responsibilities for commission members, for them to review audits and all of that. But who has the responsibility of putting these things in place? Who actually looks at each agency and commission about what they need, what their financial reporting needs are, and how to devise and design that chart of accounts, how to actually teach the individuals they need to have accounting systems to put these things in place, how to prepare the reports, and all of the above. And so that's what this commission tries to do. Now, I just saw something pop in the chat from Sister Reverend Kim Moss. Thank you, Reverend Kim. And I'm going to address that right now because I was just getting to that. This bill talks about payments to these individuals because that's what the original bill had foresaw. But this bill actually is like a year old at this point. It was prepared for the CLO biennial. At this point, I believe that we can find 9 persons who would do this on a pro bono basis. And in order to say that, I thought I should actually do that, basically to find some individuals, and I did. I found individuals, they know the current state of the church right now, and I asked, would you be willing to serve 18 months, 2 years or so to just put in the basis of that and help us move forward? And all of them said yes. And so I do believe we have a lot of qualified people throughout all 20 districts, basically, who would be willing to step in and do the work that needs to be done for the church. Well, we do need people who are in place who have the responsibility of teaching, training, and implementing the areas of oversight that we're talking about in various areas of the church. This group will work alongside the Department of Statistics and Finance, basically hand in hand, basically, but this group would have a very specific responsibility. They would be independent individuals who would not be necessarily appointed by anyone, but basically individuals who had the qualifications to do the work at hand. And so, yes, it's a committee of 9 persons. And so the screen right now is showing the amount of monies that we estimated, as I said, more than a year ago. But I have talked to people across the districts. I've even talked to someone from the 19th district that would be willing to do this work for free. So we have qualified individuals from all 20 districts who will be willing to do this type of work for us. But we do need someone in place to implement the oversight that is desperately needed throughout our church at the connectional level for those who receive general budget dollars.
Okay. Has this bill been shared or vetted among others? And can you tell us who?
Yes, it was vetted, of course, by the CLO Legislation Committee and taken to the CLO for review and approval. It definitely been vetted, and then also taken to the second district where I'm a member of, and it was vetted and approved at the second district level as well.
And can you speak to any issues folks might have had with this bill?
Well, recently, the biggest concern has been, can we find qualified individuals who'd be willing to work for free, honestly? And I think that's a valid concern, which is why I actually just started reaching out to individuals to ask the question. But there's many people who are qualified throughout our districts who love the church and who'd be willing to volunteer time to help the church implement proper oversight.
All right. Mr. Williams.
All right, so y'all know time's winding down. So there are several other questions in the chat. Sister Gordon Floyd, would you please respond to all of those questions publicly so that everyone can keep a track of, your response? And we will begin our poll here. As we prepare, we will move to page 147, I think with Brother Brazil. Then we'll move to page 174 with Bishop Leaf. So prepare yourselves, everyone, for page 147, then page 174. I'm going to skip around because there's several bills that have been requested that we would definitely like to cover today. All right. Time is running out. You have less than 10 seconds to vote. If you're unable to make it, do note in the chat that you can vote. All right, ending the poll and sharing those results. Oh, okay. 55% say yes, they support this bill. 10% say no, they do not support this bill. And 35% are still considering this bill. Again, Sister Floyd, several questions in the chat, so please answer those for us, please. All right, Miss Technician, page 147, please. And Brother Brazil. Oh, you're already ready. All right.
Okay, so this is the trustee bill. Okay. So in this particular bill, simply put, trustee participation in the negotiation of pastors' housing allowance. What we are doing this only to deal with the initial issues that people had. This only deals with situations in which a pastor or a particular local church has a livable parsonage and the pastor decides not to live in it, elects not to live in it. That's the only time that this will come into play. Other than that, when it comes to the pastor's package and housing allowance, the steward board negotiates that with the pastor. In this one situation, because the trustees deal with the upkeep of the buildings and all of the finances associated with that, this will give opportunity for one person on the trustee board, whoever the trustee board decides to be in there with the stewards when it comes to dealing with this particular issue. It only happens if there is a livable parsonage. Let me give you a prime example. In my local church, my church has a parsonage, but it's not livable right now for various reasons. It's structurally not livable. So therefore, the pastor has his own home. So only the stewards deal with the pastor's package. If the local church gets the renovations completed at some point and it is a livable place for the pastor to go to, then if the pastor still decides to stay in his home, then at that point, a member of the trustee board will work with the stewards to deal with the package of the housing allowance for the pastor. That's the only time this comes into play. Only if there's it's his or her. I was talking about my local situation. We have a male pastor, but his or her pastor, only in that situation will a trustee function in that negotiation, and that's it. I hope that simplifies the situation. Any questions at this point?
Excellent scenario, Brother Rubin. Has this bill been shared or vetted among others, and with whom?
It has been shared and vetted with every Episcopal district legislative task force. It's also been vetted and passed by the CLO biennial, and it was also vetted and passed by, it was vetted by the convo in December.
All right. And can you briefly just speak to any issues that someone might have had with this bill?
Well, like I said
you might have
earlier,
cleared it up anyway when they
Yeah.
get the understanding that's in this specific issue that this
yeah,
scenario will come up.
Yeah, it's only if it does not usurp the power of the stewards. It only deals with a situation where there is a parsonage that the pastor elects not to live in, a livable parsonage that pastor elects not to live in. That's the only time this will come into play.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
We'll take one question from the poll, maybe from the chat, and if not, we'll move on to the poll.
There are several questions. Thank you all for your engagement. Y'all know time right down. We may do a poll to see if you would like to stay on a little longer so that we can get to as many bills as possible today. One question. Why not for any negotiations concerning housing allowance? Maybe not allow for any? Reverend Wendell's question isn't very clear.
I don't understand. Like I said, this deals with housing allowance for pastors. It only deals with one situation where the trustees a trustee will work with the stewards to deal with this issue or with the pastor's package. That's the only time this will happen.
Okay, everyone. I don't know. We write many polls. Okay. Thank you, Brother Brazil. We are.
Let me also say, because I see another question in the chat that deals with what if the church does not have a parsonage? Then it does not apply. It only applies if the church has a parsonage and is in livable condition.
Thank you, sir. Oh, Sister Williams. And Brother Brazil, I'll try to address your questions in the chat.
Yes, Brother Brazil, there are several questions in the chat.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay. Having an issue again Let's see.
Can I add one more? Because I see this coming up more than once. Only one little small thing.
Go ahead, Brother Brazil.
If the parsonage is rented out because of other financial issues, all of that money would not go directly to the pastor because there are other financial concerns and considerations to deal with. So that's what this is. I see that in there, and that's what this was dealing with partially, because they are already giving a housing allowance and other financial considerations to the pastor. So if they have to rent it out, that goes back to the general church, and they'll deal with it as they see fit at each local church. So that's an issue for each local church to deal with. Thank you. I'm done with that.
Okay. So we do have results for the poll. I believe this is the one. 54% are in support of this bill, 10% do not support this bill, and 36% are still considering. Okay, let's now move to page 174 with Bishop Leaf. Brother Brazil, please continue to respond to the questions in the chat publicly so that we all may see the answer. Miss Technician, can we move to 174?
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Again, I want to echo appreciation and congratulations for this forum, and it is very much appreciated. I will be very quick on. Basically, it establishes in the discipline how you deal with a congregation that has too few persons, or in some instances, they don't exist. One of the things that we run into when we try to sell abandoned property is banks are looking for documents that say you have the authority to do it. And so basically what this does is it puts in our discipline a standard that says when the size of the congregation has dropped below a certain level, 10, or has been designated as to mission status, that the annual conference trustees can step in and act in terms of dealing with church properties. And I think that's it. It's kind of straightforward. And specifically not have a church conference or a quarterly conference in order to confirm it, because that becomes a problem. You have 3 members and they're all in a nursing home. It's hard to have a church conference or a quarterly conference. And those are the situations where this would be implemented.
Thank you, Bishop. Bishop, has this bill been vetted and where?
You know, a version of this bill was actually in the convo in the last quadrennium, and similar legislation was presented at the last general conference.
And have anyone shared any issues with this bill?
No, it never came to the floor at the last general conference, and that's created a problem for bishops and annual conference trustees, because in some instances it's been hard to transact business.
You might get your chance to address those issues now. Sister Williams is going to help you with that chat. There's some questions in the chat.
Okay.
Alrighty then. Thank you, Bishop, for your willingness to answer these questions. The wrong bill. I don't know. Nope.
Did I speak to the wrong bill?
That's what they're saying in the chat, that the wrong.
Oh, yeah, this is different. I'm sorry. Ooh.
Bishop should have spoken to, well, he spoke to the bill, but the bill on the page is not correct. It should,
Yeah,
it
we
perhaps
did that
might
bill
be
last time.
on, it might be on, oh, wait, Bishop.
I can give you the page just a second.
Yeah.
It's 195, 194, 195 was the bill I was speaking to.
Okay, let's see. We have that one. Oh, yes, we do on page 194. Disposition of church property held by missions and small congregations.
Right. That was the one I was speaking to. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and launch the poll for the bill that Bishop was speaking to, which is on page 194.
94. Mhm.
94, not 74. My
Mhm.
bad. All right, everyone, you have 45 seconds to address this bill. Do you support? Do you not support? Are you still considering your support for bill that is on page 194 instead of page 170? As we prepare to move forward after the vote, we will go to page 424 with Reverend Doctor, I believe, Corwin Davis. And that is same-sex marriage language, I believe is it.
No, Sister Williams,
What?
that will be addressed on our next one. That shouldn't be on our list today.
It's on our list today. We're
Oh,
going to
yeah, we will not do that today because there's a group of people that are getting together and we are going to address that in our next session.
All right, so we're going to share the results of the bill that's on page 194 that we just heard from Bishop Leaf about. 69% are in support, 40% are not in support, and 27% are in support of this bill.
Sister Williams,
Yes, sir.
okay. Are we priming up our next person?
Yes, we are. Miss Technician, may we move forward, please?
Can I just get a reconfirmation? What number?
We're going to 2424.
Okay.
Can we move forward, please? And Reverend Davis, if you're ready, we'll move forward with you, sir.
Thank you, Jameisha. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you.
Thank you. And thank you again for the opportunity to address this forum and for the insight for its purpose. I'm here representing the ad hoc AME Sexual Ethics Discernment Committee. So I myself did not submit this bill, but as many of you might remember, at the 2021 General Conference, a piece of legislation was brought to the floor that was not able to be discussed, but instead a resolution was passed that formed this committee of sexual ethics discernment. And the committee was tasked by the General Conference to discern and to meet and to pray and to propose legislation and to propose conversations leading up to the 2024 General Conference. And so on 424 and 425, you'll see the very brief piece of legislation that the committee has proposed, and it is only to remove that section which you see listed on the document, to remove that language from the discipline only because it has not, at the time of its inclusion, was not included according to a process of prayerful discernment and careful study that the committee and the church has been tasked with at this point in history. So this piece of legislation in particular does not add anything to the discipline. It does not require anyone to do anything as much as it offers the opportunity for us to, in earnest, pray and discern and study this issue before making any further moves that would be printed and published in the discipline as law. So again, this bill rationale is printed before you, and the task is to remove that which was not included based upon study, and it does not propose to include anything. This bill, to proceed to the next question, has been dealt with by the Commission on Sexual Ethics and Discernment for the past 3 years. We have had regular meetings led by our chair, Reverend Dr. Teresa Fry Brown, and our co-chair, the Reverend Garland Pierce and Reverend Dr. Roger Beelan. And this draft is what has been come out of that process and has been discussed in convos over the past 2 or 3 years. And it is the one piece of legislation that the committee has decided to put forth for this general conference. And that is all. I look forward to your questions that you might have in the chat, and more importantly, hoping that this bill is able to receive proper discussion at the floor of the general conference.
All right. Thank you.
I believe you did share it with us, but I'll do the traditional. Have you shared or vetted this, and with whom?
Thank you. I was trying to unmute. Yes, the bill has been shared and processed with the Committee on Sexual Ethics and Discernment through combo legislations, and I believe that our chair made a presentation to the Council of Bishops. I don't think any recommendations have been made yet to its acceptance, but it has been vetted.
And can you share with us any issues that individuals might have with this bill, please?
I'm sure there will be many, but I think that so far the general consensus is an agreement that the discernment process that which the committee has been tasked and the larger church has been invited to is one that will enable us to whatever we decide to put in the discipline to be done more thoughtfully and with a little bit more time than this previous one.
Okay, we'll take some questions from the chat. Please, Sister Williams.
Okay, let's see. Lots of responses. I believe Brother Bill Dickens asks, have you read Professor Jay Leaf's brilliant new book related to this bill?
I have, and Dr. Leith is one of the committee members, so she's been an integral part in writing this piece of legislation. But yes, we have read and engaged her book and have purchased a number of them to disseminate to different districts and congregations who have requested. And I commend it to your reading as well.
Thank you. Sister Liberta asks, does the committee include members from districts 14 through 20?
It does. It does. We have a great cadre of members from all of the 20 districts, not every single district, but it does include members from districts 14 through 20, and even a presiding elder from one of those districts. So the voices have been equally represented. And the committee has been for those who wanted to serve at will. So at different points, there have been additional people added on throughout the 3 years, and they represent diversity in terms of district, age, clergy, lay, the whole gamut of our Zion.
Thank you. And the last question from Brother Ruben Brazil asks, has the committee considered the possible negative impact on the body of the church, similar to the split and loss of members of the United Methodist Church?
There have been conversations, I think, similar to that end. I think some of those negative impacts are incommensurate with what we have experienced or witnessed with the United Methodist Church, particularly since this bill does not, as the United Methodist Churches, it does not demand anything. So it does not force anyone to, for themselves as an ordained clergy person or for their local congregation, to perform any types of service. It does, however, allow for those who have heretofore been forbidden to do so if they so choose, but it does not demand that everyone choose. And so removing that language just gives the flexibility until the prayerful discernment process that we believe it deserves is able to continue. And Dr. Jennifer Leith has also written an article recently in the Christian Recorder that speaks to this question some more at depth. If those have not read it, I would recommend that to your reading too.
All right, we will now launch the poll for those members present to decide whether they are in support of this bill. Everyone, do you support this proposed bill? Yes, no, or are you considering? And we will give 45 seconds for this before we move forward. I believe the trustee bill was also one that has been highly requested. Brother Johnson, is that page 662, or is there another bill that you would like to focus on?
Trustee Bill 662.
Is Mr. Cooper, is Reverend Cooper on the line? And available?
We'll check. Let's see, we're sharing the results. Currently, 40% support this bill, 32% do not support this bill, and 28% are considering. And Reverend Cooper is here. We will send you a request, sir, to unmute yourself. And Ms. Technician, may we go to page 662, please?
Thank you for the opportunity to present this bill. This bill simply provides a greater degree of flexibility with respect to the nomination process for local church trustees. It requires that the pastor nominate at least the number to be elected. However, the pastor is not required to nominate twice the number, although he or she may nominate twice the number. If the pastor does not nominate twice the number, nominations must be accepted from the floor up to twice the number to be elected. So this bill would, again, gives greater flexibility. It preserves the authority of the pastor to nominate twice the number if he or she chooses to, but also gives the opportunity for nominations from the floor if he or she does not.
All right. And can you share the difference in this bill, sir?
But currently, the pastor is required to nominate twice the number to be elected. There is no flexibility.
All right, thank you. Brother Johnson, you may ask your questions.
Thank you, Reverend Cooper, for joining us today. Can you share with us where has your bill been vetted and with whom?
It was recently shared with the 3rd Episcopal District during our legislation review.
And has anyone shared with you any issues with this bill?
No issues presented.
Okay. Any questions in the chat, Sister Williams?
Let's see. Brother Dickens asks, is the upper limit still 19?
It is.
Okay. Well, are we ready for the poll, sir? Okay, thank you. Everyone, we are launching the poll. Reverend Cooper, there are other questions in the chat for you. If you would respond to those publicly, that we may all see. And we are going to prepare for the next bill. Okay, we have one hand. Bishop McLeod, we're coming to you, sir, to recognize your hand. Please unmute yourself. Nope, hold on. You must unmute yourself first. There you go.
I think my point is mute now because you've taken the vote, but all I was going to say was that there are so many small churches with 2 people or 9 people or 16 people or 4 people that the pastor does not have the names. And then there are cases where the pastor just doesn't name the names. And this bill will give the people the opportunity to offer names. So it's a good bill.
Thank you, Bishop, for your comment. Everyone, the results of the poll on bill that Reverend Cooper just shared with us, 70% are in support, 9% do not support, and 21% are still considering. All right, for the Reverend Cooper, we are also going to look at page 656. You may speak to this, sir.
Okay, thank you. This bill deals with the transfer of local church property. It is intended to clarify what can be seen as an ambiguity and a conflict, and also to clarify current practice. So in the discipline on the section dealing with the transfer of property, subsection B deals with all transfer of property, including the sale, purchase, mortgage, or any transfer of an interest in a property. And then following is section C that deals specifically with the mortgaging of property. And in that case, you have what could be an ambiguity. This provides a single process for any transfer of real property in the local church. It also separates out personal property because the way it currently reads, you would need to get quarterly conference and annual conference trustee approval for the transfer of personal property. That is not the current practice, and it should not be the current practice. And so this just clarifies those issues.
All right. I think you shared with us, well, you can tell us again, where has this bill been vetted, sir?
It was presented to the 3rd District recently at our legislation review.
And can you speak to any issues that someone might have shared with you with this bill?
There were no issues raised that I'm aware of.
All right. Any questions in the chat, Sister Williams?
I was muted myself, excuse me.
All right.
What if real property is loaned to the church?
I'm not sure what legally that means. If you're talking about property is rented to the church, it's rented. So it would be the church's interest would be a rental interest. If you mean loan, that I'm not sure what loaned means.
Okay.
In terms of personal property, anything other than real property.
Okay, sir, I believe that's all that we have. Oh, how do you define personal property?
So yes, that would be anything other than real property. So furniture, tables, chairs, computers.
Okay, thank you, sir. We are now ready to launch the poll. Everyone, please vote on this bill if you are in support or not, or are still considering. And then we will then move to, we do not have it on the slide, so please do accept our apology, everyone. But Pastor Gordon Glenn will speak on page 426. So if you have your packets, please go to page 426, and Pastor Gordon Glenn will just simply speak on its title, intention, rationale, and amended text if necessary, and then we will launch a poll after that.
Yeah, I'm actually on my phone, so I don't have the packet in front of me. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just 1 second,
Yeah.
sir. Let me end
Okay.
this poll.
Okay.
All right, so the results of page 656 with Reverend Cooper are 52% are in support of this poll, 8% do not support this proposed bill, and 40% are still considering this proposal. And I misspoke, 52% are in support of this bill, not poll, excuse me. All right, Pastor Glenn.
Yeah.
you have the floor.
I've submitted several. I don't remember which one this particular page is.
It's page 426.
Yeah, I'm on my phone and I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
Yes, sir. If you can speak to the sexual ethics bill.
Oh,
and particularly
okay.
should tell us the difference between, well, speak to your bill and then tell us the difference between the ad hoc bill, please.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity. The bills that I submitted for this was not to delete the whole section on same-sex marriage, but only to delete point 3, which is the prohibition of our clergy to perform, attend, bless same-sex unions. And so my suggestion is to take the penalty out and move point 3 out and move point 4 up to point 3. So it would retain everything except the penalty for our clergy for performing those. And that's the simple thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, and I guess again, how different is mine from the ad hoc group is that the ad hoc group is suggesting to delete the whole section, and I'm just suggesting delete one line.
All right, we got some homework to do to study those pieces of legislation. I think there's actually like 4 or 5 of them that are kind of similar. So delegates, we need to really study those bills.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
The questions, I'm sorry, I was preempting your questions. Go ahead, sir.
Have your bill been vetted? And
Yeah.
with whom?
It's been discussed and vetted at, I believe, Convo, a couple of the convos. It was also discussed at the 5th District Lay Organization Legislative Task Force. I've discussed it in my particular conference, the Midwest Conference, our local legislative task force, and several members from the revisions committee throughout the connection.
And can you speak to any issues someone might have with this bill or might
Yes.
share with you?
Yes, the issues are similar to what the ad hoc group have presented, that my mind doesn't go far enough. It doesn't fully address the issue. It just is a compromise. So those are the things that I've heard it said, and I tried to address those in a Christian Recorder article that I wrote concerning it. To talk about I do admit that it is a compromise, but I think that where we are as a church, I don't think we're ready to delete the whole section.
All right. Mr. Williams, you have anything from the chat you want to share?
We do not have any questions. Hold on. All right, so to be clear, this bill would only delete one line of the text in this section.
Yes, it would only delete out the section that has the penalty for our clergy for performing same-sex unions.
Okay, thank you, sir. I believe that is
And
all.
the rationale behind it is that it is legal in these United States and in several places where the AME Church it is legal.
Okay, thank you, sir. All
Sure.
right, we are now launching a poll for this bill shared with us by Reverend Gordon Glenn. Do you support this proposed bill? Yes, no, or are you still considering? After this, we will like to hear from you all. So there are several, oh, okay, so some people aren't seeing the poll. Well, it's about to end. So thanks for responding in the chat. I'll start later, okay. All right, ending the poll now. 31 are in support of this proposed bill. 30% say no, that they do not support this bill. And 33% are still considering. There are several comments in the chat. All right, everyone. So we do thank you for all of your participation. I would like to launch one more poll to see if you would be interested in meeting next Sunday. We did propose 3 sessions. We know several of you will be packing or traveling or resting. But if you are interested in having one last session where we can maybe do a general request of you or the bills that you would like to see or hear from, we can reach out to those authors once more to see if they're interested in joining us. So I'm going to launch the poll. It will say, do you support this proposed bill? So the bill is, we will have a session next Sunday from 4 to 6. Are you in support? Launching that poll now. Let us know. You can also speak to this bill, this proposal in the chat. Yes, no, or are you still considering that we meet next Sunday for one final session? Because I will not do this at General Conference. You can beg. The Lord would have to ask me to do this at General Conference. But we can do one more round if you so desire. So, oh man, y'all are like really in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll pack this week. Okay.
And Sister Williams, and we proposed that we might do ministerial related bills on next week. it was on our schedule at one point, maybe the second session, but we were so overwhelmed with so many connectional and local that we thought to separate it. So that will probably be one of the main ones we deal with, ministerial related bills. And like you said, folks can suggest what they would like to speak about too as others.
Okay, so the results of the polls. No, Saturday, I don't know, sis. Okay. 63% are in support, 26% say no, they do not want to meet next Sunday, and 11 are still considering. There was also an option to meet on Saturday. I don't know. I'll have to look at my schedule to see. One other commenter said that they needed more time. I do see that Brother Dickens is here, since we did handle that business. Yes, Mr. Bill, there you are.
Thank you very much for acknowledging me. I just have a quick question. Is there an opportunity in which we can submit questions in advance to assist in the way in which the questions are going to be responded to?
You can submit questions once the table of contents is produced and shared, and you can send those to me at yar@ameclay.org. And
okay, of course I didn't write none of that down. I'll just get it from Mark.
It's okay. We'll put it in the chat.
I'm so irresponsible. I don't even have a pen.
No, you're
But
you're
I'll get
okay.
it from Mark Johnson. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. And I know you did have a proposed bill. I think we did add it for this time, but as always, we've run out of time today because we only want to keep you 2 hours at best. Okay, so because I love y'all and I'm Daisy's granddaughter, we will meet next Sunday from 4 to 6, maybe, depending on how many bills we have. So if you are interested, please look forward to another email communication regarding that session. And if you would like to see a bill shared with us or reviewed, we will make sure we contact those authors to join us. We do have one more hand from Director of Public Relations. Y'all better thank my grandma. From Director of Battle. There you go, Director of Battle.
Thank you so much. This is quick. I heard you say submit the questions. Repeat that again. Repeat the questions where?
So if you once we send out the proposed table of contents of the bills we will discuss next week, you may send your questions to yar@ameclay.org. And I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you.
For all of you. All right, 3 to 6. We'll think about it, Brother Brazil. 3. I have a hair appointment. My head is gonna be hurt. I don't know, Brother Brazil. Okay, thank you all for your lovely comments. Thank you, Brother Johnson, for your support of this initiative. We also want to extend many thanks to Director Battle as well as Editor John Thomas of the Christian Recorder for sharing this information with you all via their means of communication just to get the word out. So we do appreciate your time, your enthusiasm, and your engagement in these sessions. And going forward, again, we'll see you next Sunday, time to be decided. And if you have any bills that you are interested in hearing from the authors, please send those to yar@ameclay.org by Wednesday, so that we can reach out to those authors and give them time enough to make arrangements to be here. If they are traveling, I don't know what else we can do. You can talk to them on site. But again, we thank you. We thank you Sending love to you and safe travels as we all prepare for General Conference.
Sister Williams.
Take care of yourself.
Sister Williams.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for helping us through this day. But we particularly want to thank our help today. Shanae
Oh,
Saunders.
absolutely.
And Ashley Blakely.
Shanae and
They have been
Ashley. Oh,
wonderful.
girls, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, we would not be able to do any of this without Shanae Saunders and Miss Ashley Blakely.
Yes,
Really. Y'all know I love you. You do know I love
Thank
you.
you.
Y'all know. But we really appreciate your support in this effort. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Mark, because I was about to be mad at myself for not
You're good. You're good.
thanking those two ladies. Really appreciate them. All right. I think that's all. That's all, folks. As I used to say.
Good evening.
Y'all take care. Travel safely. Know that you are loved and prepared. If you attended all 3 sessions, you're definitely prepared.